Alright, another new hole, and you know the drill. Let's go ahead and get started. As I do my Let's Build a Harbinger video, there's three things I want to talk about first. The first one is that if this is helpful for you, it's probably helpful for someone else in your alliance. Go ahead and copy and paste the link, put it in there, and a few folks might thank you. Second is that this video will make more sense, or could make more sense, if you go ahead and watch the target recon video. It's the one on my channel right before this one. Understanding what's in the target is pretty important for the build. The third thing here is I will have the Kixeye hash code in the YouTube description in my Kixeye Battle Pirates builds document doc. I have this provided here. You can go ahead and click something, and that sends you directly to the hash code, the build, and the explanation here. It's a resource I'm just providing here for you. Enough of that, let's go ahead and get into the video. The Harbinger is the tier 10 skirmish hull, and there's really only one option for things these days. We of course only have the U1 through U3 upgrades, no word on the X1 or the flagship, but of course we always get those, they'll be coming. This is a concussive Gatling gun hull, and you may notice I do have an evade bonus on here already. I believe this is actually from the retrofit lab. In terms of special abilities, we do have a built-in weapon, which I do not believe is affected by too many things at all here. The damage looks to be consistent, something that would not be affected, but Kixeye doesn't really tell us clear information on that. Oh well. I'm also not sure why 8 times 40 is 320, not 360. Doesn't make too much sense to me. Let's go ahead and get started with the weapons. As you can see, there are no countermeasure slots whatsoever, so that makes the choice really easy. Put on as many of the limited Gatling guns as you possibly can. Any that you don't have or you go over, you can just use the regular ones completely fine. I will be using some of those myself. In terms of the CIC, you unlock this upgrading to U1 and you get this in the Forsaken mission. This gives you survival as well as applies a duplicate aura cap to every ship within 40 range in the fleet and gives it slightly higher turn speed as well as higher critical chance. Critical chance will be important in this build as we go throughout. Let's now go ahead and throw on a few different armors. I really don't know if explosive or concussive is going to be the more damaging one. I am thinking from these two VXP targets you will take more explosive damage if you auto and more concussive damage if you drive very well. Take that for what it's worth, and I'm going to be going with 2 of each armor slot, 1 concussive, 1 explosive, or 2 concussive, 2 explosive, just a nice even split build. Your survival numbers get so incredibly high, it does not really matter too much here. We're talking a 2% to 5% actual change and reduction in damage. If it ends up being really important, I may refit, but I won't. In terms of the engine, make sure you match the combat speed for the fleet, and you want to use the neural network engine if you have it. If you don't, the tier 9.5 skirmish, the tier 9 skirmish actually, because I don't think we got a 9.5, could be useful. The other option here is the one Reaver engine that we did get that does actually boost your concussive damage by a small margin. If you wanted something else that does not actually boost your combat speed, running with Reef Rider engine does give you more concussive damage. This may be useful, something to think about. I will be going with the limited one that gives me slightly faster speed. And of course, the CIC is something you do want to equip. The next special is going to be another one of these new ones that came with the hull, and this is a regular unlimited one right here. This is the Reckoning Ammunition Casings. If you don't have this one, use a different one that gives you depth charge critical chance, which should be the full metal casings if I do remember correctly. The search bar here doesn't work very well. This is a critical special and is one you really need to be using to have everything synergize real nicely across all the stats on this hull. It's very useful. Try and pick this one up. It should be in the TLC as well. Special slot number 3 is going to be the Liberty Belt, and this is a concussive, essentially advanced concussive system 4 or concussive damage system, whatever you call it for. It gives you more concussive damage and more concussive reload, 2 fairly important stats. In terms of the 4th special slot, this is going to be, at least for most folks I would think, Damage Diffusion System 2. I am of the opinion that splash damage reduction, especially only 20,000 of it, will have very marginal effects. You're putting this on here for the projectile speed and the bonus combat speed. By the way, in these targets, I see nothing that gives you that evade would work against, so evade is not a useful stat. I don't know why it's on here, but I definitely would not use agility system 4, guidance score number 3, because evade is not useful. You could possibly compare this one right here to Hyper 30, except Hyper 30 I believe actually has better stats in every single category other than evade. If you wanted a different special, you could consider something like the Shikaro Splash special, however you want to pronounce that one. That does give you more splash damage reduction, which I don't really think is very helpful. More than the Hyper 30, I should say, less than damage diffusion system 2. You could also go with one of the old specials that we used to use for this one, such as the countermeasure system. This is only on here for the pure survival. Maybe 12.8k survival is better than 20k splash damage reduction, but I doubt it. In any case, you are going to want to use this one, and it does give you combat speed, so make sure you apply to all ships in the fleet. You're going to want to use this one just for the projectile speed. Those riots are really, really hard to catch, at least with one ship. The last special is kind of weird, and it's going to depend, and this is an interesting one. So you have lots of criticals on here. Some of this is 12% through research and development. Some of it is from the U3. If you upgrade that far, you get 15%. Some of it is just built in through the Reckoning Ammunition Casing special, and then more of it, again, is through the CIC that boosts everything in the fleet. If I were right now to throw on what you might think would be the best special, Impact Overdrive, I would end up having too much critical chance. I'd have 112% critical chance. It looks at least, in my opinion, to be better to go with something that has slightly less critical chance, but more concussive damage. In this case, that happens to be the Bushido battery, which is available in the Forsaken mission, and this does give you more concussive damage, but no crit chance. That's okay. If you're at U3, this is the better option by like 2.5%. It is a very small change and has a bonus of the splash damage reduction. So if you can get up to U3, and especially U3 building 5 ships, you're going to want to go for Bushido battery to have the best possible path. If you cannot get to U3, or you're only building 4 ships, it will be better, at least for the first raid, to go for Impact Overdrive. So if you're only going to get to U2, and you're only going to have 4 ships by the first raid, you'll do better in the first raid by about 10% or so if you go with Impact Overdrive instead. But if you want to optimize for the second raid where you have U3 or X1, in that case use Bushido battery. Personally, even though I only plan to have 4 ships built, so 3 plus the flagship for the first raid in the cycle, I plan to optimize for the second raid where we'll have everything up to X1 for pretty much free, and in that case I'll have 5 ships as well, and I will be using Bushido battery here. In terms of my specific plan for building the Harbinger, I already have one of them built at U3, and then the other 2 are just U1, U2, and are blanks. I will be putting more stuff on those ones with the Forsaken Mission tokens and the different tokens from the TLC we expect to get. I will be saving 2 weeks of tokens for the flagship to get that one built more quickly, maybe even a little bit more than 2 weeks if possible. That is my super brief video on the whole here, only kept you about 8 minutes so far, and if you have questions on this build, what I'm going for, why I've done something, go ahead and let me know. I will make sure to answer those. Also, if you do want the Kixeye hash code, I will again have that in the builds doc I showed you, and you can copy it, paste it in here with Control V or Command P if you're on a Mac, whatever it is, Command V. Click load, and that should paste that in there if you were wondering. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to everyone who keeps watching these videos and supporting the channel. And as always, this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.